In 2014, two young women from the Netherlands embarked on a hiking trip to the rainforests of Panama, only to go missing. Since the occurrence of the case, various related clues have gradually surfaced, adding complexity to the mystery. Global internet users engaged in intense discussions, attempting to unearth the truth behind the enigmatic event that we are covering today: the mysterious case of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. Today's narrative features two main characters. The first is named Kris Kremers, born in 1992, a 21-year-old Dutch woman. The second is Lisanne Froon, born in 1991, also from the Netherlands, and 22 years old at the time. The two young women have a 1-year age difference and grew up in Amersfoort, a small city in the central Netherlands. Both Kris and Lisanne are university students. Kris is pursuing cultural and social education at Utrecht University, while Lisanne graduated from Saxion University in Deventer with a major in applied psychology. Despite attending different universities, the two became acquainted while working at a cafe in Amersfoort. Their similar ages and shared interests quickly turned them into inseparable best friends. Lisanne, standing at 1.84 meters, was strong and had been a volleyball player at school. Kris, on the other hand, was not as tall, measuring 1.67 meters. Both of them shared a keen interest in travel and were learning Spanish. They decided to embark on a 6-week study abroad adventure, for which they had saved 6 months' worth of salary. After discussions, they chose Panama as their destination, a country in Central America with Spanish as the official language. Geographically unique, Panama not only separates North and South America, but also connects the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. According to their plan, Kris and Lisanne intended to spend 6 weeks in Panama, with the main focus being travel. They wanted to treat themselves after diligently saving up for half a year. The second objective was to volunteer at a local language school, teaching English to the local students. Additionally, this experience would provide them with an opportunity to learn Spanish in the local context. And so, on the idyllic Sunday of March 15th, 2014, Kris, aged 21, and Lisanne, aged 22, embarked on a journey that would take them far from their Dutch roots. Boarding a plane, their destination was Central America, with their first stop being the picturesque nation of Costa Rica. From there, they navigated the azure waters, eventually arriving at their initial destinations in Panama, Bocas del Toro and Isla Colón. In these tropical havens, bathed in the golden glow of the sun, Kris and Lisanne found themselves immersed in a tapestry of sandy shores and culinary delights. The duo reveled in the warmth of the sun, the softness of the sand beneath their feet, and the tantalizing flavors of local cuisine. As they explored the vibrant locales, serendipity graced them with the companionship of like-minded international youth, forging connections that transcended borders and cultures. Little did they know that these carefree moments of camaraderie and exploration would be the prelude to a journey marked by twists of fate and unexpected challenges. The time had come on March 29th, after a fulfilling 2 weeks exploring Bocas del Toro, that Kris and Lisanne reluctantly departed, heading towards a region called Boquete. This small town is situated in the western mountains of Panama, near the renowned Baru volcano. Their choice to visit this particular place was driven by the fact that they had previously applied to volunteer at a language school in the region. However, when Kris and Lisanne arrived at the school, they were informed that the volunteer activities for the week had concluded earlier than expected. They were advised to try again the following week, even though the school sending them an email on the 26th confirming that they could start working on March 31st. Originally, according to their plan, Kris and Lisanne would not receive any income during their volunteer period at the school, but the school would provide accommodations and meals, facilitating their Spanish language learning. Despite only missing a week of volunteer work, the two young women found themselves needing to reorganize their plans for the week ahead. Subsequently, Kris and Lisanne arrived in the southern outskirts of Boquete, an area known as Alto Boquete, and found accommodation with a local host family. The host's name was Miriam Guerra, a warm and hospitable individual who had hosted numerous international students. Upon learning of the arrival of the two young women, she promptly prepared a clean room for them, resolving their accommodation concerns. Following that, Kris and Lisanne began contemplating their new itinerary for the upcoming week. Eventually, they received significant assistance from the school, as the school staff enthusiastically recommended a series of excursion routes around the Boquete area. This caught the interest of the two young women. However, given the complex terrain of the local tropical rainforest, which could easily lead inexperienced individuals astray, Kris and Lisanne decided to seek the assistance of a tour guide through a local travel agency. The tour guide's name was Feliciano Gonzalez. The two young women made arrangements with Feliciano to embark on a 3-day hiking expedition starting on April 2nd. This adventure was aimed at exploring the local surroundings under the guidance of the experienced Feliciano Gonzalez, ensuring a safe and enjoyable experience in the intricate tropical landscape. Unbeknownst to them, 3 days had swiftly passed, and it was now April 1st, a Tuesday. The weather outside was exceptionally pleasant, and with some free time on their hands at the accommodation, Kris and Lisanne decided to venture out on their own. They had heard of a promising hiking trail nearby, known as the El Pianista Trail. Situated in the mountainous area northeast of Boquete town, the trail spans a total length of 2 miles. Along the way, it cuts through dense tropical rainforest, offering views of various streams and waterfalls. If the weather was favorable, reaching the endpoint would reveal the distant azure waters of the Caribbean Sea, providing a first-hand experience of Panama's tropical rainforest charm. Importantly, this trail was not too lengthy, allowing them to complete the round trip in a single day, without affecting the other plans they had scheduled with the local tour guide for the following day. However, Miriam, their host, learned of Kris and Lisanne's plan to independently explore the El Pianista Trail and strongly advised against it. She expressed concerns about their lack of experience and the potential dangers within the complex environment of the rainforest. Despite Miriam's warnings, Kris and Lisanne were undeterred. They believed that the trail was not an obscure route, and as long as they followed the path with other tourists around, there shouldn't be any significant issues. Seeing the young women determined to proceed, Miriam eventually relented but entrusted her dog, Blue, to them to help prevent them from getting lost. On the morning of April 1st, Kris and Lisanne took a taxi from their accommodation to the starting point of the El Pianista Trail, commencing their day-long hiking adventure. At this point, the cheerful part of the story concludes, and the narrative takes an unexpected turn. Brace yourselves, as what follows is a mysterious and eerie incident. As the day swiftly passed, on the evening of April 1st, Miriam's dog Blue returned to the accommodation on its own. Yet the two young women who had ventured out together did not return. Miriam found this peculiar and started to worry about them. That night, she even searched near the accommodation, but didn't find any trace of the two. At that moment, she didn't think too much of it, considering that international students often make friends while traveling and might alter plans spontaneously. A day later, on the morning of April 2nd, 2 additional visitors arrived at the accommodation. The tour guide mentioned earlier, and a staff member from the language school named Eileen. This was the day the 3 of them had scheduled for the hiking trip with the tour guide. They agreed to meet at the language school, but after waiting for a considerable time with no sign of Kris and Lisanne, the tour guide went to the school for inquiries. Following that, he and the school staff came to the accommodation to investigate. They initially asked Miriam if she had seen Kris and Lisanne, but Miriam informed them that the 2 young women did not return the previous night. The more they thought about it, the stranger the situation appeared. It was supposed to be a day for hiking, so why were the young women nowhere to be found? They first considered the possibility that Kris and Lisanne might have returned to their home country. Guided by Miriam, they entered the young women's room, only to find their luggage and personal belongings, making it seem unlikely that they had left the country. Subsequently, after waiting for an entire day with still no sign of the 2, they began to feel that something was amiss. At this point, at 9 o'clock in the evening, the tour guide and the school staff went to the local police station to file a report. The Panamanian authorities contacted the young women parents in the Netherlands to inquire about their whereabouts. The families revealed that they had last received messages from their daughters on April 1st, and there had been no communication since. Kris's father even sent a text to Kris on April 2nd, inquiring about her well-being, but received no reply. On April 3rd, the second day after the police report, authorities, after sifting through all available information, suspected that the 2 Dutch young women were likely missing. The official search operation commenced, with Panamanian authorities deploying a substantial number of search personnel. In addition to ground searches in the mountainous area where the El Pianista Trail was located, helicopters were dispatched for aerial reconnaissance. Despite several days of searching, the authorities had not discovered any traces of the two young women. On April 6th, the parents of Kris and Lisanne arrived in Panama from the Netherlands. In their desperation, they continued the search with Panamanian authorities for a full 10 days. But unfortunately, no progress was made. Faced with no other options, the parents offered a reward of $30,000, hoping that someone could provide valuable leads. The news of the disappearance of the two Dutch young women quickly spread locally, with missing person posters displayed everywhere, even on highway billboards. As days passed, 10 weeks had elapsed since the disappearance of the two young women. Despite the ongoing search efforts, there was still no sign of Kris and Lisanne. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a significant breakthrough occurred on June 17th. A local woman arrived at the police station carrying a blue backpack. She informed the police that she was from the village of Alto Romero, approximately 5 miles from the Pianista Trail. On that day, while working in a rice field along the banks of the Culebra River, she spotted the blue backpack not far from her location. The woman emphasized that the backpack had appeared there only today, as she worked in the fields every day and hadn't seen it yesterday. Upon opening the blue backpack, the police discovered a small amount of cash, an empty water bottle, 2 pieces of bras, 2 pairs of sunglasses, 2 mobile phones, and 1 digital camera. One of the phones was an iPhone 4, the other a Samsung Galaxy S3, and the camera was identified as a Canon PowerShot SX270HS. Additionally, the police found a medical insurance card and a passport inside the backpack. When they examined the names on the documents, they were shocked to find that they belonged to Kris and Lisanne, the two Dutch young women who had disappeared 2 months prior. Clearly, the discovery of this backpack was related to the disappearance of the two Dutch young women 10 weeks earlier. Following this significant discovery, the police focused their attention on the camera found in the backpack. The SD card in the camera was intact, allowing the police to access the data stored within. Just as the authorities believed they were making progress in the case, they soon realized that these very photos were deepening the mystery surrounding the incident. The camera held a total of 133 photos, which could be divided into 2 groups. The first group consisted of 30 photos, all taken on April 1st, the day Kris and Lisanne went to the El Pianista Trail. Most of these photos appeared quite ordinary, featuring pictures of the two young women together, scenic shots, and some images of the jungle and waterfalls. From these photos, it seemed that the two young women were in good spirits, and the scenery on the mountain was beautiful. If one were to pinpoint the eerie aspects, it would be the fact that all the photos where the two young women are smiling were taken before 1:20 p.m. After reaching the endpoint of the trail, it seemed that instead of retracing their steps immediately, Kris and Lisanne continued further into the jungle. In these later photos, Kris appeared normal, but with a more serious expression. The hearty smiles from earlier photos were replaced with a distant look, as if she was more distant from the photographer. One photo showed them crossing a stream, taken at 1:54 p.m., marking the last photo in the first set. As the police continued to examine more photos from the camera's SD card, they found that apart from the photos taken on April 1st, there were no more pictures taken in the following 6 days, April 2nd to 7th. However, from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. on April 8th, the camera captured a second set of strangely intriguing nighttime photos, totaling up to 90 images. If the initial 30 photos seemed relatively normal, the subsequent 90 images vividly depicted that something had gone awry. Most of these photos were completely black, lacking a clear shooting angle or subject. It was unclear what the intention behind taking these photos was. However, a few images were somewhat clearer, yet still strangely unsettling. For example, one photo depicted several branches with 2 red plastic bags tangled in them, seemingly an attempt to signal for help and attract attention. The most peculiar image was one that appeared to be the back of someone's head, believed to be Kris due to the reddish-blonde color of the hair, matching Kris's hair color. Although the second set of photos amounted to a total of 90, their obscure nature, taken at night, made it difficult to identify the locations or environments. Even local residents were unable to determine where the photos were taken. Additionally, apart from the camera, 2 mobile phones were found in the blue backpack, one belonging to Kris, an iPhone, and the other to Lisanne, a Samsung phone. After investigating the usage records of both phones, the police compiled a report. The records indicated that on April 1st, Kris's iPhone attempted to make a 112 emergency call at 4:39 p.m., and Lisanne's Samsung phone similarly tried to make a 112 emergency call at 4:51 p.m. However, since 112 is the emergency number in the Netherlands, not Panama, even though dialing this number outside the Dutch territory would automatically redirect to the local emergency number, both calls were unsuccessful due to the lack of reception on their phones. On April 2nd, Kris's iPhone attempted another 112 call at 8:14 a.m., and Lisanne's Samsung phone made 2 more attempts at 6:58 a.m. and 10:53 a.m. The latter call at 10:53 a.m. was a direct attempt to dial the local 911 emergency number in Panama, but it too went unanswered. On the third day, April 3rd, Kris's iPhone made only one 911 call at 9:33 a.m. and attempted to search for a signal at 4 p.m. Lisanne's Samsung phone did not make any emergency calls on this day, but it searched for a signal twice at 1:50 p.m. and 4:19 p.m. On the fourth day, April 4th, Kris's iPhone attempted to search for a signal twice at 9:33 a.m. and 1:42 p.m., while Lisanne's Samsung phone remained inactive. Moving to the fifth day, April 5th, Kris's iPhone again searched for a signal twice at 10:50 a.m. and 1:37 p.m. Lisanne's Samsung phone, after searching for a signal at 4:50 a.m., remained on until the battery depleted at 5:56 a.m., with no further activity. On the sixth day, April 6th, Kris's iPhone continued its attempts to search for a signal at 10:26 a.m. and 1:37 p.m., but both times the phone was powered on, it was entered with an incorrect password. From April 7th to 10th, Kris's iPhone was not used. Finally, on April 11th at 10:51 a.m., the iPhone made its last attempt to search for a signal, again entered an incorrect password, and at 11:56 a.m., the phone was turned off and never powered on again. After obtaining this series of complex and mysterious clues, the Panama police, who were previously puzzled, took the simplest approach. With the help of local indigenous people, they retraced the steps of the 2 young women along the riverbank from the location where the blue backpack was found. Unlike the lack of progress in the past few weeks, this search yielded new discoveries in just 2 days. Search teams found a pair of women's denim shorts on rocks, about 2 miles from the location where the backpack was discovered. After confirmation, these denim shorts belonged to Kris, and were the ones she wore on the day she disappeared. Shortly thereafter, closer to the backpack discovery site, a boot with a foot still inside was found behind a tree. Subsequently, the search team discovered some human leg bones and a piece of pelvic bone in the surrounding area. Through DNA testing, the police confirmed that the foot and leg bones belonged to Lisanne, and the pelvic bone belonged to Kris. There were no signs of a severed section on the foot inside the shoe, and there were no bite marks from animals. It appeared to have naturally decomposed. However, the pelvic bone looked whiter than normal, resembling bleaching, suggesting potential artificial acceleration of decomposition. Upon receiving this news, the families of the 2 young women expressed immense pain, and on June 20th, released a public statement informing the public that they had ample reason to believe that the 2 Dutch young women who had been missing in Panama for 10 weeks were no longer alive. In November, over 6 months after the disappearance of the 2 Dutch young women, the Panama police announced the results of the investigation. They believed that the 2 young women had met with an accident during their hiking trip, leading to their deaths due to the inability to escape in time. The case was officially closed, and no further investigation was conducted. The inconclusive nature of the results has led to various speculative stories among netizens, dividing into 2 main camps. One camp believes that Kris and Lisanne had a stroke of bad luck, encountering an accident in the jungle. Due to a lack of cell signal, they couldn't call for help and tragically lost their lives. The other camp, however, finds it hard to accept the accidental narrative and leans towards a theory of foul play, suggesting that it appears more like a murder. Let's examine some of the puzzling aspects based on the publicly disclosed information. First, there is this photo with several branches entwined with 2 red plastic bags. Some post-processing has been done to reveal the background of the image, uncovering that this place is called Monkey Bridge. It is a bridge composed of 3 ropes, with the lower one used for footing and the upper 2 for gripping with hands. It's a very dangerous suspension bridge. Therefore, a theory emerged that the 2 young women accidentally fell from Monkey Bridge on April 1st. They attempted to call for help that day, but were unsuccessful. In the evening, due to low visibility, one of them couldn't rescue the other, so they took out the camera, hoping to illuminate the surroundings with the flash, resulting in dozens of pitch-black photos in the camera. However, the phone records show that the young women's attempts to make emergency calls were usually brief, occurring only a few times or even just once within a certain period. If they were truly in a dangerous situation, shouldn't they have tried more times, even without a signal? Moreover, during the period from April 4th to 6th, the phones were only turned on to search for a signal and then turned off with no attempts to make calls. The strange thing is that the on-off times are remarkably similar, both around 10 to 11 a.m. and 1 to 2 p.m. Considering the common sense of contacting external help as early as possible for a higher chance of rescue in case of an accident or getting lost, why were the phone usage times so short and accurate? Can we boldly assume that the 2 young women were subsequently abducted by someone, preventing them from using the phones for an extended period? The host Miriam claims that worrying the young women might get lost, she intentionally had her dog Blue accompany them on the hike. Some sources indicate that Blue doesn't belong to Miriam, but comes from a restaurant near the El Pianista Trail. However, Blue returned alone on that evening. With a whole day of hiking, why didn't the 2 young women capture a single photo of the dog? Within the camera, not all photos were retrieved, and one photo was deleted and couldn't be recovered. On April 1st, they took a total of 30 photos, with the last photo numbered 508. On April 8th, they took 90 photos, but the first photo's number was 510, clearly indicating a missing photo with the number 509. Many people, when taking photos, delete shots that don't turn out well. This is a perfectly normal practice. However, Kris and Lisanne didn't seem to have the habit of deleting photos, as there were many blurry or poorly taken photos that were not deleted. The exception was the missing photo with the number 509, standing out as the only non-consecutive photo and positioned precisely between the 1st and 8th of April. Panamanian authorities attempted to recover the missing photo through technical means, but their efforts were unsuccessful. The most significant possibility is that the missing photo wasn't deleted from the camera, but was removed professionally using a computer. This raises the question of who might have done this. Furthermore, if the person behind this could delete the photo using technical means, it brings up another perplexing aspect. Why did Kris's iPhone, between April 6th and 11th, experience multiple incorrect password attempts? For someone with technical expertise capable of deleting the photo, why didn't they access Kris's iPhone? Wouldn't they be concerned about potential sensitive content stored on the phone? The mystery deepens when considering the tropical rainforest's highly humid environment, subject to occasional rainfall. The backpack discovered by the woman was not waterproof, it was just an ordinary travel bag. Moreover, it had been exposed to rain for a full 10 weeks, yet when the police obtained it, the backpack's surface was not only excessively clean, but also remarkably dry. The contents inside were undamaged as well, adding to the overall perplexity. Inside the backpack were 2 bras, as seen in the photos on the camera, confirmed to be the ones Kris and Lisanne were wearing on the day they went missing. The later discovery of denim shorts in the wilderness also confirmed they belonged to Kris. The question arises, under what circumstances would they be compelled to remove their intimate clothing and place the bras in the backpack? The use of digital cameras allows for the complete recording of various information, such as shooting time and shooting parameters in photos. For example, in the case of photo number 493, the camera recorded the shooting time as 12:42 noon, indicating that the 2 young women had already arrived at El Pianista Trail before 1 p.m. However, based on the police investigation of witnesses, the taxi driver stated that he picked up the 2 young women around 1:30 p.m. that day and arrived at the starting point of El Pianista Trail at around 1:45 p.m. Witnesses on El Pianista Trail also claim to have seen the two young women around 2 p.m. on that day, matching the taxi driver's statement. If this is the case, then the recorded time on this camera is incorrect, or all this information has been intentionally tampered with, pushing the case to a more mysterious level. Although the case was officially closed as an accident during the young women's travel, some information inevitably points towards a potential suspect. Who reported the young women missing in the first place? It was the tour guide Feliciano Gonzalez and the language school staff Eileen. Who found the blue backpack? A villager from Alto Romero discovered it in her own rice field. Interestingly, this villager's husband happened to be Gonzalez's assistant. What's even more coincidental is that Gonzalez's son lives in Alto Romero village. Moreover, instead of immediately handing over the backpack to the police after finding it, the villager asked Gonzalez how to handle it. Ultimately, Gonzalez instructed the villager to give the backpack to the police. Furthermore, after finding the backpack, the police quickly organized a search with local people and discovered remains 2 days later. It's noteworthy that the police had been empty-handed for the previous 2 months. Interestingly, Gonzalez happened to be one of the members of the search team. Additionally, before tour guide Gonzalez reported to the police, he went to the young women's accommodation due to their missed appointment. He successfully entered their room, reportedly spending 30 minutes there. This is equivalent to compromising the crime scene. Considering that the travel between Gonzalez and the two young women hadn't officially started, and the tour guide, supposedly unfamiliar with them, made an elaborate trip to their residence on the day of the tour, entered their room for an extended period, and subsequently placed himself in the center of the incident. This is genuinely perplexing. To this day, many people still attempt to uncover the truth behind this case, showing complete disbelief in the police's accidental death theory. Some have even traveled to Panama, retracing the path the two young women took that year, and have discovered locations identical to those in the photos taken at the time. Although 9 years have passed since the incident, and the authorities have long concluded the case, the question remains: did Kris and Lisanne die accidentally, or were they victims of foul play? What is your perspective on this matter?